this case only works if we're all paying attention. Let's go through the evidence together. Hello, friends. Welcome back. Okay, so today it's all about Day to Death and all the evidence, all the episodes, all the things, all the suspects, all the theories. And I want to go through it all with you all together. So let's do it. Let's play a little detective. I don't know if some of you are fans of BuzzFeed Unsolved. I'm a big fan, and I always love how Shane and Ryan talk about it. So, so if you know that you're already ready, you're already primed, the mindset is already ready. I've been really having fun watching Day to Death and really just diving deep into the theories, and I even with some of my friends I send back and forth some theories in voice notes, and and they suspect other people than I do, and it's really interesting and super fun. And I think it's also something really nice because I do love a good murder mystery, and for me a murder mystery really has something for autumn winter, because especially in autumn it's all about the spooky vibe, and in winter it's something you can just do, and you are watching it, you're reading it, you can sit in your bed, you can have your snacks, and I think that's just so cozy, and so I love that as well. Just in winter, that's one of my favorite things, is to watch on something and then be really actively engaged with it. So also I really needed a show to break a little bit that heated rivalry obsession. I'm still quite obsessed, and I will definitely rewatch once it comes out in a few days here in Germany, officially. But I think especially Day to Death and Forever You Part 2 have really also gave me so much joy, and it's been so interesting. So yeah, I hope you're excited. Let's go. Let's start with a little recap of the plot. So it starts all when a young student, Pufi, she dies after a night of partying with her friends, and the police and the ambulance gets called, and Captain Jade and Inspector Kamin basically get called in the case, and Inspector Kamin is a new police person on the force. He's been in the US, but he is Thai. And so obviously then we have the whole Jung-Gang love story, which we love. And so, but it also then starts out as, she dies, and it probably was maybe it was an overdose on whoever dosed all the other friends, or it was alcohol poisoning, but it turns out that she was murdered. And then it turns out that it's not also generally as simple as it appears, as other people in her friend circle are being targeted, being sent these truth or dare letters, and also keep dying. Or getting murdered, basically. So that's kind of where we start in the first episode. And we've got, of course, our main characters, Kamin and Jade. We have Jade's younger brother, Jay. We have Jade's friend group, which Pufi was a part of. Other police officers, 2 forensic physicians, Put and Tankun. We got Yu and Lee from the Special Investigation Unit, where they're also detectives, which actually Jade was supposed to be a part of. And then we've got the friend group of Jay. So Jay, Champ, Belle, Pufi, Tonkla, Tar, Time, and Shireen. And each person in the group basically is has secrets. And most of them, I think, besides from maybe Jay until this point, I think, has actually quite gruesome secrets. Especially the people who have died until now. So we had Pufi, who obviously got sexually assaulted and then had an abortion, and then got this letter in which basically telling her to end her own life. Then we've got Belle, who threw acid on another girl for I didn't even understand the reason, so that was very confusing. Then she obviously gets murdered with that, and we've got Tonkla, who's who firstly kills a man in a hit and run with a car which isn't his. So he stole the car and then he murdered someone with the car, basically. And then we've got Tar, who is the worst of them all because he sexually assaults people, women, drugs them, and fun guy all around. Then we've got Champ. Champ is a politician's son, and he hasn't really said that much. He seems really calm, even though half his friends are dead, one of which was his girlfriend, Pufi. And so still suspicious about him because he's giving me the creeps. Then we got Shireen. She just seems like really anxious, but we don't really know a lot. She seems to know some things, but she hasn't told us everything. And so all the people who have died received this letter. It's a true or dare letter. And there's different things. Firstly, there's stuff on it which they have committed. For example, with Tonkla, they said, oh, I know what you did, basically. Like, I know that you chose Belle over, like, you basically chose Belle to be killed instead of Shireen because you're in love with Shireen. And I know that you also, like, they basically killed this man who you hit with the card he stole, and he has like even evidence on like a stick. And then with like, you know, with all the other ones, we have like actual evidence as well. And like this person, this killer, seems to know an awful lot about this very closed off, intimate group of friends. So that's already really interesting. And yes, also we in the last episode, it's episode 6, we got a lot of some more little details, like episode 6, but also episode 5 was also very interesting because we also found out that Pufi had actually also gotten a truth or dare letter in which it basically told her that her friends suck and that it must be hell to have those kind of friends, which I kind of agree with, because they don't seem to be very good people, especially if one of them is literally the person who assaulted her and the other ones kept it quiet. So fun, I guess. So that's why, very interesting, definitely. Then we got the killer. It seems to be somewhat of a vigilante kind of thing because, like, it doesn't seem like completely like, you know, how it is sometimes in like, you know, like murder mystery. It's like a very quite selfish motive. Like it has to do with like maybe like jealousy or like greed. So it has to do with money or something like that. But this one seems to be somewhat like also about Pufi. So it's not just about the killer, basically. And it's basically about that all these people in this group have secrets and they have committed crimes themselves. And they've gotten away with it, especially with the help of Champ. Like I said, son of a politician. So has a lot of, you know, connections. And so the killer's MO is basically to do to them what they did to other people. So for example, he fed Tar like ketamine, and then he threw acid on Belle, and he crushed Tonkla with a car. So, you know, we don't know what it has to do 100% with Pufi. We'll get into that in the theory section. But also it's very interesting that they're all kind of connected to each other, right? Obviously through these wrongs that they committed against each other and by covering up with each other. And then we see a few times the killer, but we only ever see that the killer is wearing this LED kind of face mask with like a somewhat smiley face on it, which is quite creepy. So, you know, yeah. And so now we're at episode 6 of 10, I think, and 4 characters have already died, and 3 of them were obvious murders. So let's get into the theories. Theory number 1 is a theory that I haven't had for quite some time now, but I only had it in the first episode, is that Pufi's murder does not have really anything to do with those truth or dare letters, in the sense that it is about her, but the murder is not about that, and that is not the same killer, and that they're not directly linked. That is probably someone from her friend group who killed her, or that it was an accidental overdose. But I'm not really sure anymore. I don't think that's true. But especially now that we have a truth or dare letter, which was addressed to her in her room. So probably this theory is null and void, but I still wanted to mention it because it was my first one after the first half of the first episode. Then the second theory is one that is not completely improbable, but also not completely like 100% be like, yeah, I have all the evidence on that, is that Pufi did not really die, but she faked her death to either trick the smiley face killer into thinking that she is dead, which then circumvents what it says in the dare letter, or to investigate basically her friends and her friend group, because, you know, they did horrible things to her. Then we have the other part of that theory, which is that she that she definitely also had an accomplice, which might or might not be the Smiley killer. And that person is a medically trained person, because to achieve what she would have to achieve is that she looks and feels and behaves like, she's not alive anymore, so that, she doesn't have a pulse, she doesn't have a heartbeat, that she doesn't breathe and stuff like that, or it is so not discernible, which you can achieve with certain drugs. But you definitely need a medical person like for that, because you will die if someone doesn't bring you back and helps you and like gives you oxygen and all the stuff. So I feel like that's why it's very interesting. Also, one of my favorite podcasts, the B podcast from Billy and Emma, they have a very similar theory that one of the forensic physicians called Fudd is, I think, Pufi's brother, and that he is the killer, that he's somewhere involved with that, which I think is very interesting. Also very quite not improbable. So I love that. And so she would how it would work is she would tell Shireen that she's gonna drug her friends as a prank, gonna give herself a different drug, one that produces basically the Lazarus effect. So it seems like she's dead, but at some point her body does start again once the effect of the drug wears off. And then of course someone who is medical person can also help her with the after effects. So it's not that she's not super harmful in her. She can basically come back unharmed and can recover properly. So I feel like that's also a pretty good theory. Then we got theory 3, which is basically the killer is the forensic physician Fudd. And because he does work with the police, he knows about the justice system, and he knows there's basically every day there's so much injustice, so many people who go through, so many people who are the actual perpetrators and killers. And so I feel like if he is either connected personally to Pufi, or somewhat knows her, or someone gets connected with her and then knows about all the things that happened to her, and then basically her friends are helping cover up all these crimes, including the things that happened to her, I think that could really enrage someone and drive them to the brink, and maybe even do that. And also he is a medical professional, so he has knowledge of different drugs. He has knowledge how they work, how to also torture someone, also how to have access to acid and to use it on someone. Then also I think in general the whole scenario that also posited in theory 2 makes that really possible. And in general, just a lot of medical knowledge and knowledge of how drugs work on certain people, what drugs you can use, and so on and so forth. I think that could be very well, done. Then we've got the next theory, where it's I don't know who the killer is, but it's definitely not Fudd, but it's someone that is definitely connected to that group and also all the crimes and wrongs of the group. For example, it could be another woman that was sexually assaulted by Tar, or was one of their friends or family, or was someone who got filmed by Time and then sold, their clip got sold on the internet, or again their friends and family. So I think the revenge motive is definitely a very strong one, because you can see by how the killer basically kills these people is that it's not just about killing them in some Criminal Minds episode, where it's someone who has it's not it could be also compulsion, but I don't think it is. I think it's mostly about what the killer's sense of morality tells him to, so kind of more of a Dexter vibe. And I think that could be very interesting. And so I think the revenge motive then also really backs up most of my other theories that I've talked about this. Then now, theory 5 is that Champ is the mastermind, but not necessarily the killer, which I think that he could be also the killer, but I don't think he would get his hands dirty. But he could definitely be the mastermind, because he has the connections and the money and the knowledge and stuff like that, I think also. But as one of my friends pointed out, it's not that likely, because he had all this power over these people, because he knew the crimes they committed. He knew that, he helped them cover it up. So they double in his debt. And to have all these people in his circle be basically his little marionettes, that he can do whatever he wants with them, I think he would enjoy that more than killing them. But we still don't know. Then I also have another theory which I only came up today, basically on Sunday. The the 1st of February, because I was like, actually, Shireen, she could really also be because until now I was like, I don't know, we haven't not seen a lot of her, and basically most of her friends are dead, and she seems like really scared. But what if that's like some kind of facade, you know, or maybe like she's projecting that because the police does not seem to think that she is like a real suspect, like they, you know. And then there's this thing where it's like men especially see women not as a threat, and it takes them an additional, I think, 7 seconds to see women as a threat. And so I feel like that would be also really interesting if she had anything to do with the murders. And then so yeah. And then, of course, we already got that in the next episode. It is implied that maybe Time is the next to die because he got probably the next to draw their card, because he was the one who hit Jay over the head. And he said to the masked person, I did what you asked me to. So I'm very interested in how that's going to lead, but it might probably lead to his death. And so, yeah, I think it's so interesting. And I come up with so many theories, but I think personally my favorite theory is maybe theory number 3, that it's the one of the forensic physicians, because he seemed kind of sus in the last episode, because we hadn't seen him in at least 2 or so episodes, and then, or like maybe not even since episode 2 basically, and then all of a sudden, like, Kamin calls him and it's like, oh, I need some stuff about Pufi and about her autopsy. And he's like very reluctant. He's like, I don't know, we didn't really test for that, we didn't look for that. I might have to retest that. And then I don't know what the result is going to be. So it's going to be very interesting. I'm very excited for the next episode. And like I said, we're already at episode 7 in the next episode. And I think this time it's also only 10, not 12 episodes. And so that's what it says on my drama list and on Netflix. And so I'm like, that's going to be interesting, because there's still like 4 people alive. Time might die though next episode, and then we have 3 people are left alive, and Jay definitely has to stay alive because GMMTV, it has to be somewhat of a happy ending. And so yeah, thank you friends for coming to my chaotic fangirl corner. Love talking with you about all my theories on Day to Death. Tell me all about it in the comments. Tell me, who do you think is the killer? Do you think any of my theories are valid? Do you have any of your own? Tell me all about it. You can also like tag me on social media if you want to make a video yourself. Like, would love that. Would love to see that. So I hope to see you soon. You know where the subscribe button lives. And I will see you soon. Bye bye.